Okay, homing by Liz Berry. So first of all, the word homing, you might think about maybe a homing missile or homing pigeon, is the idea of something always returning. So something that is homing will always return back to its source. And again, what this poem is about is mainly about identity and the way that no matter what happens to your identity or the way that it changes, that ultimately you will always find your way back to who you are, back to the start. So as we know, Liz Berry is from the Black Country, and this poem is written essentially about her nan. So she talks about the way that after her nan died, she felt that like her identity and the history was lost with her death. So this poem is in some ways a love poem towards her nan. For years you kept your accent in a box beneath the bed. So first thing we'll notice here is that this is a metaphor about the way that she has shut away her identity. That the box beneath the bed, of course, is the idea of hiding something, but hiding it in a place that's quite personal to you. The lock rusted shut by hours of elocution. So the lock rusted shut makes an extended metaphor, and of course what we're talking about here is the idea of time, that over time she has put her accent away for so long that she can't really remember how to use it. So we have this idea about years and the lock rusted shut. Of course, the accent, which we should have spoken about before, is her identity. So the way that she speaks represents where she's from, and that she's had to hide this thing away through hours of elocution. Now, elocution is speaking lessons. How now, brown cow. So this is one of the phrases that people were taught how to speak to change their accent. So she would originally, from the back, she would have said things like, how now, brown cow. Taught how to say, how now, brown cow. The teacher's ruler across your legs. So every time she got it wrong, she would be hit by the ruler. So this is what we call corporal punishment. So using violence to teach people. It almost feels a bit like she's treated like an animal, like she's physically punished when she gets things wrong. Now, of course, remember, when she was going to school, as a young girl, she was probably wearing a dress, so the legs would be her bare skin. We heard it escape sometimes. The guttural on the phone to your sister. Saft or blart to a taxi driver, unpacking your bags from his boot. So unpacking your bags suggests that she is going home. Maybe from school, perhaps. And the idea, of course, is that you can never ever really get rid of somebody's accent. So the idea that it escapes sometimes is this idea that you can never really suppress someone perfectly. The guttural kind of links to like a low, kind of harsh noise. So the natural G sound of her speaking on the phone to her sister or a taxi driver. So of course these are people that are from these are local people that are from where she's from. So maybe every time she goes back, the accent that's been taught out of her returns. It kind of suggests at this point that the nan is living two lives at this point. So she has her life at school, the life she's forced to speak in, the voice she was forced to speak in, but then also her life back at home. I loved its thick drawl, G's that rang. So there's the idea here that the voice is almost musical. So this is the original voice and how much she loves that voice. Now, in a way, I'd almost draw a line here because this first part of the poem here is very much about her nan and her nan's life. So her nan's life, but also a bit about the past, about the ways that in the past she was forced to repress her voice. The second part is much more about the present and deals more with Liz Berry herself. Clearing your house, which means that the nan has died, so they're clearing away that things inside the house. The only thing that I wanted was that box, jemmied open, to let years of lost words spill out. So remember, there is no actual box, but the box is a metaphor that represents her true identity. And what the poet craves is a connection with who her nan really was, rather than what her nan was forced to be. To jemmy open means to force something open, almost like using a crowbar to force it open and get inside there. Bibble fitul te wum. So these are all examples of dialect. So words that exist within one certain culture. A bibble is a pebble, not that it matters hugely. Fitul is food, te is tea, and wum is home. If we go back up here, I didn't mention these words. Saft means to be silly, and blah means to cry. So these are words that exist within the Black Country dialect that have been lost when she had it taught out of her earlier on. Vowels, ferrous as nails. Consonants, you can lick the coal from. So vowels and consonants are the things that make words. So they're ferrous, they're sharp as nails, they have impact. But also you can lick the coal from them. So the idea is that they contain history. Now the coal is a reference to the Industrial Revolution, of which the Black Country was extremely important for. The actual term, the Black Country, comes from the number of factories and the pollution and coal that existed in that place. Notice here as well, structurally, that there is enjambment between the stanzas, which is quite unusual. So the line actually flows through a stanza down here. The way I read that is this idea like her nan, which is that you can try and put words into nice little boxes like this, but they will always escape. And the enjambment reflects the way that words can escape from the structures we put on them. I wanted to swallow them all. The pits, meaning the coal pits, railways, factories, funking and clanging. So we've got the noise of the factories. The night shift. So again, the idea of people always working. The factories never stop, even when the sun goes down and people go to bed. The red brick back to back you were born in. So a back to back is a small house built of brick that you were born in. So again, the history. So within the voice, within this box, is all of this history. And of course, with the nan dying, this history gets lost. And the accent which it contains is one of our only ways of having connection. So there's a desire for connection from the poet to her past. I wanted to forge your voice. Now to forge means to make or to create. It's what often people do with metal. They melt it down and forge it into new shapes. I wanted to forge your voice in my mouth. A blacksmith's furnace. So she wants to take the nan's voice and have it herself, to build something new. Shout it from the roofs. So again, to celebrate that voice, to make it loud, make it clear. This of course contrasts earlier on from when she was beaten for even using that voice. Send your words like pigeons fluttering for home. So again, the homing pigeon. So to restore the words back to where they're from. So it's a really beautiful poem, lots of metaphors that are used. The way I break it down is that the first two stanzas are really about the past, about her nan's treatment, criticising the way that she was forced to take her natural voice and hide it away beneath the bed and never be allowed to speak that way. The second half is much more of a celebration. It talks about the way that that voice contains within it all of the history of the Black Country, and that she desires to break it out of its box and to shout it and to celebrate it.